a new age of consumer mutuality, where the growth came will be won or lost based on insightful real-time plays. There may be good reasons marketing lost its way in the maze of the early digital age. But looking ahead, it is time for C-suites to recognize the need for deeper insights at every decision point and elevate this uniquely human practice to the role of a strategic quarterback. A convenient convergence of trend clarifies why brand must sharpen their strategies intent relative to consumer urgently. Many C-suites only address these forces individually, if at all, as they have grown accustomed to capabilities launching movements. But in the current environment, successful innovations focus all efforts on understanding the individual. As the COVID-19 pandemic rages on, whole industries are on the verge of collapse or dramatic change. Sometimes it seems that the line between collapse or change is so thin, it is barely noticeable as time goes on. As old consumer habits collapse along with whole businesses, some industries are writing the new future, reimagining marketing the new normal. The industries and businesses that are persistent through the crisis are the ones that are quickly adapting to the new consumer behaviors. Marketers, especially, will need to think hard about what consumers in the new normal will think, feel, and do. Seeing as after lockdowns and quarantines, the pandemic is nowhere near over, brands will have to face the truth. The new normal is here to stay. All brands continue to transform and lay the foundations for future growth. Here are some key focus areas. The return of the CMO. Many of the companies that had done away with the chief marketing officer position in their companies have been slowly reinstating their key role in 2020. As many brands turn digital, the vital role of the CMO will continue to rise in importance. Shopping online. Some people are using a digital shopping cart for the first time. The global pandemic has caused a major shift in consumer behavior. Unable to physically visit stores to buy their products, people are turning to digital shopping overnight, some of them for the first time in their lives. Consumers helped e-commerce and digital shopping fast-track their way to many homes. A process that was supposed to happen over a span of few years, consumers helped become reality in just over a few weeks. For instance, Amazon has reported a 26% boom in sales in the first quarter of 2020, a significant increase compared with the same period in 2019. For marketers, this means rethinking how to connect with customers, putting an emphasis on e-commerce and digital channel in general is crucial. E-commerce platforms are springing up overnight every single day. For brands having an economic downtrend, digital has become a crucial component of rapid revenue recovery. Data-driven marketing will become increasingly more important as new waves of consumer statistics are pouring in. Marketers will need to think hard about how to use this newfound data and better personalize it to reach their target audience. When consumers are at home, their mindset is not the same as when they are in a store. They are more relaxed and there is no rush to put things in a cart. They can simply close the window and come back later. So marketers will need to be trained how to use this new behavioral data and successfully predict behaviors in the new normal. Are e-services the new future? With the increasing popularity of e-services in different sectors such as banking and telemedicine, there may be new opportunities rising for marketers and companies alike. Those that will be able to recognize these opportunities and adapt to the changes in the e-landscape will be most likely to cruise through the pandemic less harmed. Adapting to a more open freemium model of services. It is no secret that the COVID crisis has hit businesses hard, especially the smaller ones. And when businesses are trying to stay afloat, a different pricing model may be the way to get new customers and potentially increase your revenue. Even though freemium models are already a widespread marketing tactic, marketers could implement a more open freemium model. This would be aimed at helping businesses in need. Potentially, this could be the bridge to a stronger connection to the customer base. Unemployment has made education the most popular kid on the block. With employment at an all time high, people are turning to educational materials to increase their work on the job market and learn new skills. There is a hidden opportunity for marketers and companies in this new trend. Offering educational materials for jobs, especially high tech ones, for which many people have no skills, may be a good way to establish a strong bond with your customer base. Home, the central hub for all activities. Now that many companies have felt the advantages of their employees working from home, many of them have decided to keep this as a long term solution. Some departments of companies may actually adopt this approach permanently. This means that people now use their homes for everything from work to working out and entertainment. In many cases, people have increased their online entertainment expenditures even when cutting back on others. Streaming services as well as online gaming has seen a surge in users, and this trend continues to constantly rise. Downsizing from global to local. The near total suspension of travel has made local communities much more important. People have turned their attention from the global communities to their local communities and neighborhoods. Businesses who are looking to reap benefits from this can look to the localizing their marketing efforts. This could include tailoring messages to the specifics of each local community and neighborhoods through locally established channels. Purpose doing the right things is in. Marketers must focus on communicating the right brand values. This is key if they want to establish a strong sense of connecting with their customers. Brands will have to be able to show that their brand value stand for something that other people can associate with. And to discuss about the reimagining marketing, we have a very elite international panel with us. They are well qualified, experienced, and known name in this field. And I would like to invite my first guest. He is Professor Jagdish N. Sheth. Professor Sheth is a global guru of marketing and an eminent professor of marketing at the Business School of Emory University, Atlanta, USA. He has been a prominent member of the core team during the initial years of the Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, the first Indian Institute of Management. He is the father of the first theory of buyer behavior with Professor John Howard. In 2017, he was named a fellow of the Association for Consumer Research. Other than many scholarly work, Dr. Sheth also published an autobiography called The Accidental Scholar. Professor Sheth was awarded by Padma Bhushan in 2020 by Government of India for his work in education in United States. And I would like him to say a few words to our esteemed viewers today so that they can watch and view his views and listen to him very carefully. Professor Dr. Jagdish Sheth, please.
Greetings. I'm Professor Jagdish Sheth. I want to congratulate Professor Mohan Agarwal for hosting and organizing this conference on reimagining business. In marketing area, I expect 4 major shifts which will change the practice and the theory of marketing. First, from physical to digital. Consumers are more and more opting to shop online, search for information, to do everything online first, digital first, and then think about the physical. We have seen record sales online in 2020, accelerated by the pandemic, pretty much where there is a lockdown, people are unable to go anywhere. And today, Alibaba sold more than ever before in China. So did Amazon, but also Walmart and Target, which are brick and mortar retailers, shifting themselves to online. Second major change has to do going from mass media to social media. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and YouTube, each one of them have 4 billion users or subscribers or visitors, and they're changing the paradigm of marketing communication. It is primarily shifting from marketer generated content to user generated content. And of course, influencer marketing is becoming very, very critical. Word of mouth, which used to be neighbor to neighbor, now is going global. I think we need to watch the impact of social media on society and on consumers. But more importantly, social media themselves will become more and more like market exchange platforms, as Facebook has already announced, and so will be followed by YouTube and others. Third shift is from advanced economies to emerging economies. The future of consumption is more and more driven by emerging economies. And in emerging economies, most of the change is from unbranded products to branded products, and from buying from unorganized retailers to more and more organized retailers. Of course, this is led by China, which is the largest market in the world for every product and service, but followed by India and eventually by Africa. I think emerging economies, constraints, needs will be more and more the mainstream understanding as opposed to advanced countries or Western world. There will be reverse innovation. In other words, what emerging economies do first will become what will be acceptable in the rest of the world. Fourth shift primarily has to do from shifting from differentiation and segmentation to affordability and accessibility. It is not going to be limited to healthcare, for example, or to education, but every product category will be impacted by that shift in marketing from what we focused to what we need to focus, which is affordability and accessibility, especially with the rise of large emerging economies as markets. I hope the conference goes very well, and my best wishes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Jagdish Sheth, for giving your very encouraging and very informative message to all of our viewers and for the success of our conference. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to introduce and invite my next guest, and he is Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal. Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal is the former professor of marketing, innovation, and management, IIM Lucknow, XLRI, Jamshedpur, and California State University, USA. He is the president of Indo-Gulf Marketing Association. He is US Fulbright Fellow Boston, EFMD Fellow Paris, and British Council Fellow London. In 2019, he was ranked among the 251 most fabulous global education leaders. Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, you have heard the report which I have mentioned or read, and you have heard the message given by the Professor Sheth. Now, as we all know, the conditions of the entire world, not only India or any one part of the country or any other country. Now, we would like to know from you about the reimaging marketing. Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, please. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goel, for your wonderful and inspiring, rather awe-inspiring note that you made for all of us. I thought that covered almost everything that we are facing and that we need to deal with in marketing. First of all, let me take 1 minute to say how grateful I am at this particular moment. In this room, there is probably no one more grateful than I am. First, obviously, to you, Mr. Goel, that you have dedicated one full day media conference for us, and we are extremely grateful to you for that. I know that how important is your time and what kind of social and other relevant issues you bring out. Second, of course, that you are given a fantastic, of course, I know you as a great speaker, but today you outdid yourself in terms of describing the entire length and breadth of emerging marketing. The second gratitude goes to my very, very respected professor, Dr. Shait. I was never his student, but like in Indian mythology, there is an eklavya. The eklavya never learned from the guru, but learned in the absence. I learned from him by reading his articles, his books, and 3 or 4 times interacting with him, either as a co-speaker or as one of his disciples. He has done perhaps a great service to all of us in India in marketing community. A person who was born in 1938 in Burma, which is obviously now we call it Myanmar, to a trading family, rice trading family. And then he went from there to USA to do his PhD, MBA, and then wrote that phenomenal work called The Theory of Buyer Behavior with Professor, Satan Howard, as it is known as. Thereafter, he wrote many wonderful things, and each and everything he wrote was significant. It was not only successful, but it was also significant. The second thing that he did, and which that is why I consider him as one of my gurus, that he was a giver. He was not a taker. He will give back to the society a lot in terms of whether it is his own knowledge or money or fame, and he will provide this kind of help to everyone. That is why first time in India, a business school has been named after him. And this is the only business school in Mumbai which has been named after Jagdish Seth, Jack Seth Business School. The other thing is very, very important is my all colleagues here, Professor Joshi. I know how wonderful he is. I mean, how many people you will see in the room who has written 6 articles in HBR, who has written 200 articles at such a young age, and still stays humble, still stays accessible. So, Dr. Joshi, I'm really, really very grateful to you from the bottom of my heart that, you are the person who taught me how to teach services marketing. When I started services marketing teaching in India, and when Parashuraman and the others, when they were writing about the history of services marketing in the Journal of Retailing, I was at that time struggling to teach first time in India services marketing in 1986. And still some of my students, and later on Professor Lovelock and others, they did a fantastic, fantastic service. So Dr. Joseph is carrying that particular tradition of excellence, but with a difference. And that difference is Asian thing. So that is also, in my view, reimagining marketing from that point of view. Then, of course, wonderful man. I mean, I have to meet a man who's more wonderful than is Sven Hollinson. Amazing, man of values, man of principles, man of simplicity, and yet man of excellence, who is always and always giving back to the society. I mean, just one little thing I would say, and then I will move on to the reimagining marketing, that he was painting his own house when I was a professor in Denmark. And when I asked him, the Sven, why are you doing this? He said, Mohan, because my salary and the salary of the painter is almost the same. Do you remember, Sven? Something like that. And I said, wow, here is a man who does things like that. He is so simple. And then, of course, young men like Nishit, who is carrying the tradition of accreditation towards excellence. He's not taking accreditation as some kind of certification, but he's showing it as a pathway for excellence, continued excellence. So that is why I'm saying I'm most grateful to you. Coming back to this reimagining marketing, and I will not take more than 1 minute because I know there are other experts whom I would like to hear and listen to. 3 things I would like to say for which this Indo-Gulf Marketing Association took up the job of reimagining marketing in India. And that one was, of course, the COVID, as you have rightly mentioned. But I thought that marketing was being misbranded, mistreated, misunderstood. People were seeing it as if that it is a person to whom you would not like to marry your daughter. I thought that is not the correct thing to say. Marketing is a discipline of values, a discipline of purpose, discipline of mission. And that particular thing has become, to my mind, way to go. And which means that this reimagination of marketing is in terms of value creation, not in terms of selling something to someone who doesn't need anything. So I think we have moved from salesmen to value creators. And that value creation for me is a reimagining the role of marketing today. Third thing which I would like to say, and that is that marketers are not just seeing product as the way to bond with the customers. They are bonding with the customers directly, indirectly. That the point which you mentioned as customer relationship. And this relationship with the customer is either collaborative or co-produced, or somewhere it is totally committed to the welfare and wellness of the society. So reimagining marketing is not that like we are putting some kind of a new label on the old bottle. We are actually changing the contents of the bottle itself by saying that this particular bottle was for yesterday. Thank you, no longer valid. Now we have to create a new contents, new portion into that particular bottle. And that is what I believe, that the customers are being seen much, much more prominently, much, much more centrally, much, much more significantly by the marketers today in this reimagining marketing. And as you rightly said, CMO are being brought. I will say one more thing. Today they are saying that yesterday you needed a topic of or a course like strategic management. Today they are saying you should learn strategic marketing. So this is again another change, that from marketing strategy course to strategic marketing. And that is the point that I would like to come and stop. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohan Agrawal, for giving your views about the reimagining marketing. And you have very, very clearly mentioned what is the purpose of this conference and how to educate the people, because according to you, the marketing is not something which is taboo or which people feel that it is not good. But according to you, it's a very pious thing. The marketing is the thing. And today, the people have to concentrate on marketing if they have to survive in this pandemic conditions, whatsoever the things are happening. Thank you very much, Dr. Agrawal, for giving your such a clear views about the reimagining marketing. Now I would like to go to my next guest, and he's Dr. Joshan Waltz. Dr. Joshan is the Professor of Marketing, Vice Dean of MBA Program, National University of Singapore. He is a leading authority on service management and has over 200 publications, including 6 features in Harvard Business Review and over 20 books, which include Intelligent Automations, Learn How to Harness Artificial Intelligence, and Service Marketing, People Technology Strategy, which is in its 8th edition. Welcome, Dr. Joshan, on our show. Dr. Joshan, you have heard what the Professor Sheth has mentioned in his message and what Dr. Mohan Agrawal has mentioned. And Dr. Mohan Agrawal has spoken very high about you, so I need not to say anything more, but I will only want that you definitely, your words will be very enlightening for our viewers and especially the youngsters who are watching this show very keenly to know what is the reimaging marketing. Dr. Joshan Waltz, please.
Mr. Goel, Professor Agrawal, it's a great pleasure and honor to be with you here today. And also in the honor of Professor Jack Sheth. I mean, I had the absolute pleasure of meeting him in person when he visited the National University of Singapore, where he was talking about the rule of 3. And I mean, as Professor Agrawal talked about, he is one of the legends in marketing. He made some of the most foundational contributions, but he's also a real role model simply because he is reinventing himself all the time. You look at his latest research is on digital platforms, data-driven marketing, and also on repositioning customer support services as revenue sales centers rather than cost centers. And so I'm just sort of so impressed by him, how he over decades keeps cutting edge and contributes to marketing, which of course leads me to my topic here today, because my core heart expertise and all my energy goes into the marketing and management of services. And what both speakers said already, the hottest topics really here are artificial intelligence, intelligent automation, service robotics, and platform business models. And that's where I really want to focus on today. For me, our economies are really at an inflection point at the moment. So we talk about the Industrial Revolution at the late 18th century, which basically made high quality goods affordable to the masses. Before the Industrial Revolution, I mean, if you wanted to buy a handbag, a lady bought maybe one handbag in their whole lives and kept it. Today, because they had to work many months just to save for that handbag, right? Today, you can buy a new handbag every month if you like. And services haven't had this dramatic increase in productivity yet. And I think things have come together. We are in the midst of what I call the service revolution. And why am I saying this? Because all the technology is coming together. All the technology is getting more powerful, it's getting smarter, it's getting smaller, it is getting cheaper. We're talking about service robots, robotic process automation, intelligent automation, biometrics, geotagging, cloud technologies, natural language processing, machine learning, and that goes on and on and on. And I believe that a lot of services that are currently expensive and scarce, and that includes healthcare and education, will become much cheaper and available to the masses at similar to the Industrial Revolution, at great quality and really low prices. So let me just share 3 thoughts here on this, 3 dimensions that determine how fast and where service robots and AI will be deployed in marketing and in service delivery. The first really is the task tangible or intangible? The second is it cognitive analytical versus social emotional? And the third one really, how much volume is on this task and how heterogeneous is it? So let me first talk about tangible, intangible. The minute you talk about service robots, people think about the cute little robot in a retailing shop, or that greets you, or in a hotel that brings up your suitcase or brings you in-room dining. And it's true, as soon as you have to move something tangible, you need a physical robot. But a lot of the stuff we have in service is intangible. So I don't really need a physical robot. So I'll give you an example. In Singapore, Changi Airport always tries to be at the cutting edge of technology. Currently, there is one information counter per terminal, per level. And it's at the center. And it's expensive. It's expensive real estate. It is expensive headcount. And yet it is inconvenient for customers because you may be at the other end of the terminal and you have to walk to the center to ask your question. So I promise you, in 5 years' time, you will have a very handsome gentleman, a beautiful lady, as a hologram beamed down from the ceiling, speaking in all the common languages, can answer all of the common questions, like where's the toilet, where's check-in for Air India, where is GST rebate, where is passport control. And the beauty is the cost is in the development, but the deployment is completely scalable. That means whether I have a counter, a person every 50 meters, every 100 meters, doesn't really matter because it is very low cost equipment, just a beamer, a microphone, a speaker, and I'm in business. Yeah. And I mean, we just published this book, Intelligent Automation, and my co-author, he had a startup that was sold to Sykes, and that was on automation in call centers. I promise you, in 3 to 5 years, we hardly will speak to human agents anymore, simply because the call centers will be completely automated through voice-activated and text-activated chatbots. And in our book, we call this democratization of intelligent automation. So if you go to my business school, to the MBA website, you will see a chatbot that was only launched 2.5 months ago. And that was completely developed in-house by my team, who never did anything with chatbots and automation and RPA before. I sent them all to a one-day course on RPA. my university has IBM Watsons as a license. So they built this entire chatbot on IBM Watsons. And we soft launched it for 2 weeks, and then we officially launched it. And can you imagine, in 1 month, we had 20,000 unique conversations on this chatbot. Can you imagine how much time my team saved in terms of asking questions? Do I need GMAT? Can I get a waiver for GMAT? When do I have to pay the first installment for the fee? What is the requirement for, and so on and so forth, right? So now my team can really focus on really good, exciting candidates we want to convince to come to our MBA program, and the more difficult questions. And the same thing, you look at retailing. I mean, your retail assistants, every big departmental store or electronic store has a large Samsung section here. You ask any questions to the retail assistants, a reasonably sophisticated customer knows more than the retail assistants. I promise you in a few years, there will be retail solutions, somebody offering these solutions for retailers, and someone like Samsung will just buy that, and there will be bean chop assistants in there who can tell you all about all the Samsung products. I mean, you can see where we're going with this. So this is a tangible, intangible. The next is the task more cognitive, analytical, or more social and emotional? And I can tell you all simple, emotional and cognitive analytical tasks will be done by service robots. Ticketing, answering questions in the call center, and so on. So some people we can chat later will ask, so what about the human touch? And I always come back, so you like the human touch, right? So when was the last time you went inside a bank to cash money from a teller? Right? You don't, you go to the ATM, and I promise you, your customers don't want to talk to you either on the call center. Yeah, I was working here with a bank in Singapore, and they said, look, every call to the call center is a service failure. And why? The customer couldn't serve themselves on the app, on the website, and the solution wasn't apparent to them. So they call you. So they do an analysis every month. Why do customers call us? And they try to design those calls out. And I'll give you one example. Some 5-7% of all calls were about the ATM swallowed my cash card or my credit card. And then you can predict with 99.99% probability that that customer will call your call center in the next few days. Yeah? Now, how do I avoid those calls is very simple. The minute I know the cash card was retained by the ATM, I send a push message to that customer. Dear customer, we noticed this ATM here at this branch withheld your card. We will send you a new card within 3 working days. If you do not want a new card, simply reply with N. So can you imagine, this is much better customer service than before and much more cost effective to the bank, and it's fully automated, right? So all that simple surface friendliness and simple cognitive stuff will be all done by robots and automation and so on. Now the very complex emotional services, or those where emotions are part of the core value proposition, they will still be delivered by people like, PhD supervision, marriage counseling, going on a whitewater rafting adventure trip. This you want to do with people, not with a robot, right? And interestingly, when things become emotionally complex and cognitively complex, this will be all delivered by robot people teams. And I give you an example in healthcare. My daughter visited me in Singapore, and she flew back to Munich, and she came down with dengue fever 1 week after arriving in Munich. So her doctor, her general practitioner, probably in his entire life has never seen a dengue patient. And there may be many similar diseases like skin cancer, right? AI today outperforms leading dermatologists on detecting whether a mole is cancerous or not, and so on. And I promise you, in a few years from now, if you're a doctor in America, and you make a medical judgment error and you were not AI supported, you can be sued for malpractice. Because what you will have is an AI watching your interaction with the patient and taking all the biodata in it. And then the AI will give you a hit list of potential diagnosis and will tell you, look, with 98% probability, this patient has dengue fever. So of course, then the doctor can ask the patient, have you been to the tropics recently? Oh yeah, I returned from Singapore. Okay, then let's do a blood test to test for dengue. So I hope you can see where we're going here with this. Now, the last one is really, does the task happen a lot or very infrequently? And how varied is the task? And anything that happens a lot and is not so varied will all be done by robots, physical and intangible robots. Anything so in between will probably be robot assisted. And only if it's really low volume, really highly varied, then what we will have is people will have to do this. And my typical example here is the handyman in a hotel. That handyman has to be able to open a safe, open a door, fix a carpet, change a light bulb, look at a sprinkler and a smoke detector, and all of these things. And for the foreseeable future, we won't have robots that are so versatile to do all of this. So the handyman's job is very safe. But let me stop here, Mr. Goel. I know professors can, if you let them, they talk forever. So I'm very happy. I mean, I know I probably said a few quite controversial things here. I'm very happy and so look forward to discussing those points. But back to Mr. Goel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joshan, for giving your views. And Dr. Joshan has highlighted that how the marketing, the reimaging marketing is going to change, and it's already changing. And he has given examples of Changi Airport, Singapore. And he says that today the condition is that the passenger has to search for a inquiry counter, go there and ask the questions. Where is the toilet? Where is the passport control, etc., etc. But he says within no time now, because of use of artificial intelligence and creating a robot, which will be answering your all queries sitting 100 meters apart from each and every one. So the things will be changed. Then he has given an example of a bank. And he says in the bank, right now, the calls are going, earlier the people used to visit the bank to take out the money. Now they are going to ATM or using their credit card, debit card. But he says, still there is a problem, they have to call the bank or the call center. Now the banks are working, why the customer is calling, it's a failure of the services. Why not we push the message immediately if there is some deficiency on the part of the bank, and immediately the customer will come to know and he will be very, very satisfied. So that is a customer, because according to him, the marketing, today's marketing is the main crux, is the customer satisfaction. If the customer is satisfied, you are successful in your marketing and marketing your brand. Thirdly, he gave an example of a healthcare, and he gave the example that his daughter from Singapore, she flew to Munich, and there the doctor could not diagnose easily because they have not seen the dengue fever in their own life. But now he says that the things will be coming where the artificial intelligence, somebody is watching the doctor, and that will suggest the doctor that it can be dengue. And the doctor can ask whether you have come from a tropical country, you have visited. If she says yes, then immediately he will go for a blood test. Like this. So what he means, he says that now the main crux of the marketing is how to satisfy the customer. But to satisfy the customer, you have to update yourself, and you update yourself by using artificial intelligence, by using the new technology. Although I would like to ask the questions to Dr. Joshan, but I will ask these questions in the next round. Only I will say that these things are very good, but what is going to happen to those countries where there is a labor surplus, where we have lots of labor? If all this automation will replace the humans, then what is going to happen? That I will be asking in the next round, not now. Thank you very much, Dr. Joshan, for enlightening our viewers that what is going on and how the reimaging marketing is taking place by giving more and more satisfaction to the customer. Now, my next guest I would like to invite. Thank you very much, Dr. Joshan, for giving your views. Now, my next guest is Dr. Seven Hollenson. Dr. Svend Hollensen is the professor of marketing, global marketing guru, Southern Denmark University. He has practical experience as international marketing coordinator in a large Danish multinational enterprise and as an international marketing manager in a company producing agricultural machinery. He received his PhD from Copenhagen Business School CBS in 1992 and has published articles in international recognized journals and is the author of Global Marketing. This book has been translated or adapted into Dutch, Spanish, Chinese, and Russian. Welcome, Dr. Hollensen, on our show. Dr. Hollensen, you have heard the views or the message given by Professor Sheth, then the views of Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal, and the views of Dr. Joshen about the reimaging marketing. Now, definitely, we would like to know your views about the reimaging marketing. Dr. Svend Hollensen, please.
Thank you very much for the invitation and greetings here from Denmark, in Scandinavia. And also thanks to Professor Agarwal because of inviting me to this important event about reimaging marketing. And first of all, I would like to go through some of the iconic publication of Professor Sheth. And he has inspired me a lot. Our roads have crossed several times, and he has inspired me during his whole career. And one of the first publications he inspired me with was the book from 1969, The Theory of Buyer Behavior, where he presents his theories together with John Howard and formulated the Howard-Sheth model in buyer behavior. And I think that was very important event. So back in 1969, that's many, many years ago, more than 50 years ago. And then some of the other publication he has inspired me with was then in 1973, where he had an article in Journal Marketing, a model of industrial buyer behavior. Important event, important contribution to the whole marketing field, where he talks about the buyer behavior in business to business. So he transformed his general theory presented in 1969 and took it to the B2B marketing area and wrote this very important article in 1973. And then he has been active over so many years, and one particular article that inspired me.
Prime Time News Prayojakaru Sun Premium Refined Sunflower Oil Rohan Corporation Saha Prayojakaru Malabar.
About evolution of relationship marketing. In this article, he presented the transition from transactional marketing to relationship marketing. And I think that is one of the important events in marketing, to look at marketing.
Prime Time News Prayojakaru Sun Premium Refined Sunflower Oil Rohan Corporation Saha Prayojakaru Malabar Gold and Diamonds Volkswagen Ocean Pearl.
Other where we are in conflict, where we are independent. He took it from there, from the transactional view, and to the relationship view. And that is a very, very important transition that has been going on, of course, for many, many years. But he took it into a very simple figure. And that is a figure that I have also illustrated in my marketing books, because I think it's so much appreciated by students, because they can see right away in this figure, oh, this is where marketing is going. It is not only competition where we try to get more market shares, each of us, a kind of zero-sum game. We are developing also into a situation where we can generate value together, even with some of our indirect competitors. And I think that is a very important message. So, of course, we have good relationships to our suppliers and to our customers, but sometimes we can also generate value even with some of our competitors. And I think that was a very important article that I was inspired of back in 1995. And then of his later, of Professor Schedt's later publications, he actually also this year in 2020, he published a very, very good article in Journal of Business Research, the impact of COVID-19 on consumer behavior. Where he goes into these trends that he also explained in the introduction, and that the whole customer behavior and consumer behavior area is somehow disrupting this time under the COVID-19. And I think behavior is changed for good. This is changing forever. So we are changing our behavior not only in the COVID-19 time, it's actually something we will bring on in the future. And it is happening very fast. One of the trends that I have realized over the last year is, of course, that we are stuck as persons, but data are flowing more and more across industries, across borders, across customers, B2B, customers. And this fact,
Prime Time News प्रायोजकರು Sun Premium Refined Sunflower Oil, Rohan Corporation.
Enormous implications for our future behavior, both as persons, but also as companies. And in my field, in global marketing field, I think it has also already have enormous influence, because if you are a global company, you in the good old days before Corona, we would go to different countries. We would go to visit our people in the different countries to see how they did with selling and so on. And over the last year, we have not really been able to that. And what are the consequences of that? Well, we need to rely more and more on local people, good local people. And how do we get to having fantastic local people? We need to do education. We need to have education online, seminars, webinars, all kinds of learning processes in order to educate the local people. So I think that trend, this kind of globalization, so we really go into an era where we see more globalization, but also more localization. So the concept of being both global and local is getting more and more important. So localization, not globalization, but localization, the combination of globalization and localization is the new buzzword. And it will be more and more important also in future, because we have to rely more on the local people that we have around, and we have to rely on our relationships to people in the different markets. So I think over the years I have been very, very much inspired by Professor Chet, and I am really honored that I have the opportunity to say a few words here about the inspiration that he has given me. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sand Hulsen, for giving your gratitude to Professor Sheth. And what Dr. Hulsen has made a point about the globalization and localization. And he says, now the new word is, the key word is the localization. Correct, if I pronounced correctly? Where he says, because earlier people used to go, they used to go to the different countries, they used to educate the local people about the local behavior, about the local marketing. But now, because of this COVID thing, the travel is stopped. So they have to do all the webinars, seminars, and try to do. So now it is a thing where you have a globalization, but with a local flavor or localization. So this is the new reimaging of marketing, where one has to club both the things, whether it's a global or local, to be successful in the marketing. Although our Honorable Prime Minister of India has also mentioned, and he has said vocal for local, that one has to be very much vocal about the local. You have given a global and local. So thank you very much. Education Committee and HES, National Apex Body for Higher Education Policy, Government of India. Welcome, Mr. Nishit Jain on our show. Mr. Jain, you have already heard what Professor Sheth has mentioned in his message. Then you have heard Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, you have heard Dr. Joshan, and you have heard Dr. Hollenson, their views about the reimagining marketing. Now, we would like to know your views on reimagining marketing. Mr. Nishit Jain, please.
Thank you, Professor Lal. It's a proud privilege. Thank you, Mr. Mohan Agarwal, for inviting me. And it's a proud honor to speak among yourselves. In fact, you know, it's very challenging because after speaking in academic, it's nothing is left to talk about. So what I could do is I could probably bring in some practical views from the, industry perspective as to how, important marketing aspects can be looked into. So first and foremost, I would say we'll follow the 4R, 3C and the 2G policy in order to understand this better. In order to have a marketing, which is very, very crucial at this point, we need to define the objectives. If we have defined the objectives, that why we want to do this marketing, what is the objective, then I think we can plan a better marketing strategy. Having said so, what are the key objectives today is to build a strong reputation, have a strong relationship, have a strong ranking for institutions, and lastly, a revenue model to be able to sustain all of these things that we want to put forth. Now, in order to, of course, building a great reputation is good, but then is our business model right? So to understand that, we need to have 3 C's, as we say. The deep customer insight. The customer of tomorrow is no longer the customer of yesterday. And we need to understand what is that the customer needs, and that can be only understood through compassion, through contactless understanding, because no longer the customer will necessarily visit you in person, touch, feel. So we need to be looking at contactless marketing. We also look at collaborative marketing. So it is not one-to-one anymore. Now you may have one-to-many or many-to-one. So we need to look at all of these models. And lastly, the 2G, which is the greater investment, greater strategic outlook. Greater investment is extremely crucial because, like many others would agree, that when the Sensex is low is the time when most people will be scared. I think when the Sensex is low, most people should invest. So when the markets are in the volatility is the time when you should invest in marketing. So investment at this time in marketing with a strategic outlook for greater outlook for the next 5 years, how it would look like, what products you want to service, what services you want to offer, is very, very crucial. Having said so, how does accreditation link into this? Accreditation is a key differentiator because not everybody has accreditation, but it allows you to differentiate from all the people, because there are so many people offering so many similar things. So if you really want to stand out, if you are accredited by one of the leading organizations around the world, I think it allows you to certify. If your products that you consume are certified by respective bodies which are leaders in that field, you would be more at ease as a customer to consume them. Also, it enhances your credibility. Credibility, why? Because accreditation takes into view the global benchmarking. So when there are several schools in the world which are benchmarked, whether it is INSEAD, whether it is HEC, whether it is Fudan, whether it is Tsinghua, whether it is IIMs, when we benchmark you and put you in the same league, that okay, all of these schools are accredited by any organization, and therefore you are credible, you are seen as a different player, you are seen as a product which is conforming to those minimum standards. It is also about enhancing the rankings. Rankings today are taking a strong view beyond the perception, beyond the placements. They are taking perceptions, they are taking reputation, they are taking the impact that you have created. And impact can be measured through accreditation again. And impact can be of several types. I mean, whether it is a social impact, whether it is a financial impact, whether it is the intellectual impact by the research that has been produced, the knowledge that has been created by an institution. So all of these get captured in impact, and that impact leads into what we call a greater perception, and therefore leading to a greater reputation, and therefore the consumer is more likely to subscribe to your product in the great competitive world. Also, the next one would be the ability to deliver high quality programs. How do you do so? In the current context today, if you are an accredited institution, it is far more easier for you to collaborate, to exchange, to partner with the like-minded institutions across different geographies. Imagine a scenario that you are a great school in India, or a great school in Dubai, or a great school in Denmark, or a great school in Singapore, but then you are great only because you are catering to a local market. Today, the market is no longer local. With technology at the back of everything, everybody can connect with anybody. And therefore, to connect, you need to collaborate. And how do you collaborate? People will collaborate because they have a trust that you are accredited, because of that enhancement of the credibility, because of a good ranking. So all of these things work hand in hand. The other important aspect is the corporate connect. Accreditation reinforces and enables putting a great corporate connect into perspective also, because corporate connect is no longer limited to internships and guiding on the course curriculum. I think it has now moved on to the next level wherein we co-create. So corporates are also looking at those researchers and those students and those institutions who could co-create new generation products and services, and that kind of an scenario can come in through greater acceptance of each other through accreditation, which puts in robust processes in place. Accreditation also allows you to put in and make focused choices. Making a good choice is very essential in today's context. You will always have great number of opportunities and proposals, but which one should you pursue? I mean, you need to focus. You need to not be digressed from what your goal, what your objectives are. So accreditation puts in those processes and allows you to do only those things which are relevant to the context, which you can achieve, which are realistic, which are time bound. And it keeps you on a track, and it is allowing you to have a sustainable effort. So all in all, what I'm trying to say that accreditation has several ways to reincarnate the new marketing mantra, is what I would say. I was talking to a couple of other colleagues in Europe, and one of my friends, Mr. Cripps from Sorbonne, he mentioned there is a paradigm change in the way people are now thinking. A lot of students used to go overseas to study, I mean, particularly in US and UK. But now with the political environment, with the health environment, with the economic environment, we need to look beyond. We need to look at different geographies beyond the English speaking geography. While we all love English like any other language, but I think we need to challenge ourselves, and we need to be open and receptive to the idea that there is a world beyond these. So a great